G'day there, Questers. Well, everyone knows that the Ashes is the most extraordinary sporting rivalry in history. England, the old foe, play Australia, the convicts from down under. And it evokes all sorts of passions, all sorts of memories. And no matter where these two sides are ranked in the ICC Test Championship rankings, there's always something very, very special about this competition. When I think of the Ashes, I think of tradition. I think of baggy greens. I think of Ashes urns, burnt bales, and egos that have been buried in the history through significant losses or through, on this particular occasion, significant wins. 2002, I score 197 in the first innings, and then just in case the Poms hadn't had quite enough, 103 in the second innings. At home, my family around me, traditions of the game, launching the Ashes series in the very first Test match is probably one of the most special performances of my sporting career. So let's dig into the story, because it's an absolute beauty. So why is the Ashes so important to us Aussies? Well, we've got two sides of the story as well. Why is it so important to the Poms? Well, obviously the way that it started and the traditions of the fact that we are proudly a part of the Commonwealth and under the monarch of the Queen. And it's a really special link between Australia and England. And I dare say that it goes way beyond a sporting field, because there's a great love-hate relationship. One of the things that elevated above and out of not only the political and social environment of the relationship, but was the environment of sport. And so when these two proud nations bash away at each other, they love to win. And it's not a win at all costs. There's a very strong spirit of cricket that exists on the Ashes. Some of the most famous scenes that you've seen. For example, Brett Lee in the second Test match at Edgbaston, and seeing Freddie Flintoff when Australia lost that Test match right at the very end, and Brett Lee crouched over in almost complete depression, and Freddie Flintoff just putting his big, huge hands over the top of him and supporting him up. That's the sort of emotion and commitment to sport that you see out of this great tournament in the Ashes. For me, it goes right back to my childhood. Sneaking up to the shed, and on the middle-sized tractor, there was a small transistor radio, and I'd switch it on and I'd hear the great Henry Blowfield and others banging away on the airwaves in the middle of the night on Test Match Special, and hearing all the heroes, Geoffrey Boycott, defiantly ensuring that England are in a great position in the Test match, and understanding just how important it was at that time as a developing cricketer. You know, hearing these great yarns, hearing how much it meant to both nations, hearing the excitement and the elevated level of passion and the commitment to excellence was just something that I wanted to buy into. It was mounting a compelling case in my ear for 2 decades before I actually put on the baggy green and started playing for Australia, pretending that I was some of these great characters like Dougie Walters, or fast bowler like Jeff Thompson or Dennis Lillee, dreaming that one day I could potentially put on that baggy green, or even just dreaming to be as good as them in any cricket that I played. You see, cricket's got a way of being your game as much as anyone's game. And growing up in a 10-acre block in Kingaroy in southeast Queensland, it meant that it was our game, my brother and my game, backyard cricketers. Forget the baggy green at that stage. Fierce rivals existed. He would be one of the English players, I'd be an Aussie, and vice versa. And it started dreaming of that competitive spirit and that nature of being that player that could one day play for the Ashes. So casting forward a couple of decades and thousands of runs in preparation for this match, and seeing the faces of my family in the crowd at Brisbane, which was traditionally always the first test match of the summer, and realising my dreams by making a test match 100 was just extraordinary. To feel that energy of my home crowd that had begged the Australian selectors for so long, give Matt a bat, give him a go. And to just reward them with this performance was something so special as a Queenslander as well. There's a lot of innings that you play at any level that you don't remember, but there is a few that you stand out. And for mine, in 2002, the 197, 103 was a standout innings. For a start, let's go back to the toss. And let's mention the fact that Nasser Hussain won that toss and decided to bowl against Australia on a pretty good Gabba wicket. Now, the Gabba's my home ground, and I've been used to playing on wickets that are really dodgy and dicey. But this wicket wasn't one of those. So when Nasser Hussain elected to send us in, it was a party inside that dressing room from ball one. And I remember we were pretty much at that first session, one down at lunchtime. Ricky had just joined me. And walking off, the two sides hadn't spent any time around each other. And so really it was the first opportunity as we were walking off to just say g'day. And I remember saying g'day to Andy Caddick. And he thought I was being a smartass. But actually, I was just trying to be friendly. Granted, they were one for plenty, at lunchtime, so they weren't happy campers. But I remember walking inside that dressing room and saying, that is going to be the last time that I'm nice to any one of these people over the next 6 weeks. It is war. And Andy Caddick is going to have bleeding feet by the time he gets me out in this test match. Anyway, the rest is history. But actually, when I look back at that test match, the person that I took it out on the most was Craig White. And he bowled with the second new ball in the second innings. And it was a display which was uncharacteristic in many ways. Because in 2002, remember, I was only just starting to find my feet in test match cricket. I'd had a great series against India. I'd had a pretty solid series in England. And in 2002, it was sort of like now my time, and I felt like I was confident enough that I'd arrived in the match. And so when he took that new ball, from pretty much ball one, I was walking down at Chalky White and smashing him through mid-wicket and over the top and having no fear. It was a time when I just had released all of my anxiety and thought to myself that this innings and this place in Test match cricket is now my time. There was no doubt in my mind that the 2001 and 2002 Australian Test match team was the best that I'd ever played. I mean, you could tell that once there was one person dismissed, the Poms are like, oh, now we've got Ricky Ponting to have to come in and try and get out. And then if Ricky got out, oh, now we've got Steve Waugh. When Steve Waugh got out, oh, now we've got Mark Waugh. Oh, and then finally, the straw that broke the camel's back was when Adam Gilchrist then just happened to stroll to the crease, and suddenly then the fireworks would go off. So there was just this great sense of dominance through that side. Arrogance, maybe it was perceived that way, but certainly that era of cricket and those cricketers that I just mentioned there were once in a generation, potentially once in century players, and they're all playing in the same team. It was truly a remarkable era to be a part of.